William Patterson is in the transfer portal for Syracuse basketball, and the Orange can now use a little bit of center depth.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Locked On Syracuse Podcast. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And recently, I reported that William Patterson is in the transfer portal, and Syracuse now has an open roster spot, but could use a little bit of center depth. So, William Patterson, he was a 7'2" center, Rivals 3-star recruit heading into last season for the Orange. He was the lone freshman in the class of 2023 for Syracuse. Obviously, for this year, the Orange have two players, and Donnie Freeman and Elijah Moore coming in. He redshirted. He did not see any time, and it's interesting because Naheem McLeod obviously went down. He was the starter until he went down, obviously with a foot injury. And nobody on Syracuse was really able to take the bull by the horn at the center position. I know they gave it to Malik Brown by default. They had to play someone at the 5, but Malik Brown is not really a 5. And, we talked about Peter Carey. When he entered the transfer portal, he was never really able to get that role of a true starting center. He had a little bit of flash here or there, but William Patterson was a true redshirt. Even when Naheem McLeod went down, this was someone who still could not see the floor for Syracuse. He was definitely someone I was looking forward to seeing next year because obviously he is big. He's 7'2". You have to take chances on someone that is that tall, especially in college. And the Orange have a little bit of a history of developing some under-the-radar big men, mainly Jesse Edwards, who was a 3-star recruit, and it took him a little bit of time, but once he popped, right? It took him a couple seasons, I believe, and then all of a sudden he was an all-conference center or all-conference caliber center. As far as the future for William Patterson and how I see it going, I think it's going to be similar to Peter Carey. Peter Carey followed GMAC to Siena. Not all that surprising. But the idea with Peter Carey is you go from a power 4, power 5, whatever you want to call it, down to a mid-major, and you develop in the mid-major and hopefully transfer back up. That is my assumption. With William Patterson, I'm going to believe it's a similar type deal where probably wasn't going to see the floor much, if at all, for Syracuse next season. So perhaps he looks elsewhere into the mid-major where he can get a starting spot, put some film on tape. Yeah, that's right? Put some film out there, so to speak. And hopefully one day for William Patterson, he improves. People like what they see. He's 7'2", and they give him another chance in the Power 5. That's how I see it going for William Patterson. It's not the end of the world for Syracuse, but coming up, we're going to talk about the current centers on the Orange's roster, the open scholarship spots available, and how the Orange can use a little bit of center depth. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slaps to home runs to slam dunks on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. And hey, Syracuse football fans, I know there's a lot of optimism. You can go on FanDuel right now and bet the Orange to win the ACC at plus 4,500. For those folks, I recommend this bet that if you have Syracuse winning at least 10 games. If you have Syracuse winning at least 10 games, I suggest taking a flyer on them winning the ACC. Take that shot. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, I need you all to listen up for this huge announcement. I have been tracking the leaderboards every day, keeping my eye on the scores, putting all my heart into it, and I'm super pumped to announce I am finally on top. That's right, obviously, I'm talking about the hit mobile game Monopoly Go. You've probably heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great mobile twist on classic Monopoly. You can play anywhere, anytime. You explore hundreds of Monopoly boards from Las Vegas to Camelot to the moon, all while raking in a huge fortune. Charge rent on iconic properties just like classic Monopoly. You can charge your friends rent on your iconic properties or go after their Monopoly money by pulling bank heists and taking wrecking balls to their landmarks. But my favorite part is the leaderboards, where you can see who's a Monopoly tycoon and who's gone bankrupt. So go get yourself on the charts. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store and Google Play. Welcome back, everyone, in the Locked On Syracuse Podcast. I'm Jackson Holzer, and William Patterson, as I reported, is in the transfer portal for Syracuse, a former three-star Rivals recruit heading into last season. He redshirted, probably going to seek out a mid-major to carve out a role there, then hopefully transfer back in to the Power Five. But let's look at Syracuse's roster as it stands right now, mainly the centers and the open scholarships. By my count, there are 2 centers on the roster and 3 open scholarships available, not including Dakota LeFew. He is still not committed. He is crystal balled to Syracuse. He's not there yet, though. He's not there yet. He is crystal balled, but for now, the Orange have 3 open scholarships. Their 2 centers on the roster are Eddie Lampkin, of course, the transfer, 6'11" from Colorado, who averaged 10 and 7 last year, and Naheem McLeod, who is the incumbent starter before going down with an injury. I'd imagine that Naheem McLeod will not start. He will probably play 10 to 15 minutes a night behind Eddie Lampkin, who will start. So what I think is going to happen, and I highly encourage Syracuse to do this, is even though I didn't expect William Patterson to have a big role next season, you have the open scholarships available even if/when Dakota LeFew commits to the Orange. You have the spots open. I suggest, and I think it's going to happen, the Orange target another center in the portal. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Would this be like one of the best centers in the portal? No, I am not saying go out and get a fantastic center that even is better than Eddie Lampkin or better than Naheem McLeod. Not saying that. They need a little bit more depth because all it takes is one injury, one missed game, and you're down to one center on the roster. That's all it takes. You're one pulled hamstring away from Eddie Lampkin or Naheem McLeod from having one center on the roster for a month. One pulled hamstring is all it takes. I've pulled my hamstring, by the way. That is actually accurate. It is the most nagging injury I have ever had, is a pulled hamstring, fun fact. So I think that Syracuse, and I think they will, go after a depth center in the portal. Someone that might not even be in the top 300 overall rankings in the transfer portal right now. Anyone. Honestly, even a Peter Carey type, maybe slightly better than Peter Carey, probably would get the job done for me because I think Eddie Lampkin and Naheem McLeod as a 1-2 punch at center is pretty good. It's okay. It's not the best in the ACC by any means, but it's definitely not the worst. It's probably towards the middle of the pack. You don't need to get anyone special here. I just think that they should go after another center in the portal. So that is it for this podcast, this mini one. William Patterson is in the transfer portal right now. Of course, he could come back to Syracuse. There are still 6 more days of the portal being open. That's when players have to submit their names in. They have to submit their names by May 1st. Players can commit after May 1st, but they have to submit them by May 1st for this first transfer portal window. Okay, everyone clear? May 1st is the line of demarcation. Okay, that's what you need to know there. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this video, click that like button. And if you really liked it, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you know right away when I'm dropping the next podcast. Tomorrow's episode will still be with CF Budge. Should be a good one. I hope you guys enjoy that. Dakota Lefew, we're still waiting on official news of him committing to Syracuse. So for now, we're all on a waiting game. I am aware of Syracuse football recently getting a wide receiver transfer, I believe Justice Ross Simmons. I will be releasing a 10-minute video, perhaps a full podcast relating to it soon. We'll see if that comes. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Everyone, have a great day.